meeting of the Planning Zoning Commission for July 18th, which is a continuation of the July 17th meeting. So the first thing we'll do is call the roll. Please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo.
Present.
Commissioner Giannini is absent. Commissioner Gloaz is absent and excused. Commissioner Marks.
Present.
Commissioner Morrison.
Present.
Commissioner Muir is absent and excused. Commissioner Schultz is absent and excused. Chairman Stratman.
Is here. So let the record reflect that we do have a quorum this evening, and Commissioner Scott Morrison is a voting member this evening because we have absences. So we then move on to our public hearing, and the items will be, for this evening's consideration, will be PZC 2024-09 for 1073 Avery Ridge Circle, a fence variation, application PZC 2024-06 for 909 South Rand special use permit, and application PZC 2024 that was considered yesterday, so that's all for tonight. But I forgot, do we need to open tonight's, a motion to open tonight?
To open, without 865, we need to open everything else.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to open the applications for the outstanding petitions we have this evening as named.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo.
Aye.
Commissioner Marks.
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison.
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. So the item we have would be the fence variation, but we're going to have that gentleman wait until we do this other one completely before we bring it up. No, we're not going to do that to you. You know, we're mean, but not that mean. Would you, Srosh, would you please present? But before we do that, I'm going to swear people in, they're going to wish to testify this evening. So if you're going to testify, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Good, thank you. Okay, when you come up to the podium, please sign in on the sheet at the podium, and at the beginning of your statement, please state your name, spelling it if necessary, and your address for the record. All comments will be addressed to the PZC chair. Any members of the public wishing to comment will be invited one by one to the podium to provide their comment. The chairperson may limit repetitious or inappropriate comments and impose reasonable time limits in accordance with any rules of the PZC. The applicant will be given the opportunity to present their application. After the applicant's presentation, the PZC members will be able to ask questions one by one of the applicants, and discussion can occur. After the PZC questions have been addressed, public testimony will be received, and the PZC commissioners' comments or additional questions can ensue. After all persons are given the opportunity to speak, the hearing will be closed or continued, and the PZC will move into deliberation. The applicant may be given the opportunity to respond to questions posed by either the members of the PZC or the village staff during deliberation. However, no more formal testimony will be taken after the hearing is closed unless the chair decides otherwise. Once all deliberation has ended, the PZC will vote on a recommendation to the village board on the matter. So, then we will move to the item, which is the fence variation for Avery Ridge Circle. And Srosh, would you introduce our applicant, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. This evening we have the owner of the property, Mr. Patrick Kraus, here to make his request for the variation, and he may also have a presentation. So if you'd like to come to the front, introduce yourself, name and address, and you could state whatever you'd like to state. And if you do wish to use the presentation, the back room can control it and they'll bring it on the screen.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Patrick Kraus. My address again is 1073 Avery Ridge Circle. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to address the Planning and Zoning Commission here this evening. I do recognize that this is the second evening in a row that you are meeting, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I'd like to share just a bit about myself along with my request, and then certainly able to address any questions or concerns at the conclusion. So
Very good.
before I begin, I would like to thank Sarosh and Colleen for their guidance to this point. So a bit about me. I've lived at 1073 Avery Ridge Circle for coming up on 3 years now. We moved here from Palatine. It is a new development. I live there with my wife and our 4 children, 9, 6, and 1-year-old twins. I'm also very active in the community. I do coach youth baseball, football, and basketball in Lake Zurich, so quite busy. And obviously with 1-year-old twins, we'd like to let them, they're getting to an age where they're walking, where they're liking to explore, and that brought us to the point where we decided we needed a fence in our backyard, right, to give them an opportunity to safely explore. Now, it actually hadn't dawned on me when I originally put through the permit request that I was technically considered a corner lot, as I typically think of a corner lot as a plot of land between 2 intersecting streets, right, which is not the case. Certainly, I know you have the staff report. You can pull up and take a look at it. But we are on a circle. There are no stop signs. Obviously, I'm on the red house there in the back corner. It's a 34-home community, 1 way in, 1 way out. So, again, it hadn't dawned on me that we would technically be considered a corner lot. Now, some of the rationale behind my request for a 5-foot fence over the 3-foot policy is really primarily around safety. So I feel personally that a 3-foot fence provides less safety. We have a lot of children in our neighborhood, and I feel like a 3-foot fence, which is quite short, would certainly encourage kids climbing over the fence, climbing on the fence, which an aluminum ornamental fence is not constructed to do that. We do also have a strong push within the household from my 2 sons for a dog, which we were waiting till we get a fence before we go through with that. There are also a lot of dogs in the neighborhood. Again, I just feel that a 3-foot fence would not provide, or certainly would provide, a less safe environment for future pets. In addition to the safety concerns, the Avery Ridge Homeowners Association has very strict guidelines for the type of fence that we are allowed to erect. I would be attaching to my interior neighbor's existing fence, which is a 5-foot aluminum ornamental fence. I've gotten sign-offs from my adjoining neighbors as well as the HOA board, all submitting their approval and their wish to maintain the aesthetics and uniformity within the community. Currently, there are no 3-foot fences within the community. There also is some precedence, although it's a bit of a unique situation here. 1051, which is actually at the intersection with the stop sign, was permitted to have a 5-foot fence there, although they've got a retaining wall, so again, it's a bit of a unique situation.
We need you into the
Could you,
microphone.
yeah, we are
Sorry. Yep,
recording this too. So.
Perfect. I'll repeat that. So 1051, there is some precedence, although again, a bit of a unique situation. They were permitted to erect a 5-foot fence from their side, the side of their house to the retaining wall. Again, so it's a bit of a unique situation, but I think just the layout of our neighborhood, along with some of the safety concerns, are really why I'd respectfully request a variance in this situation.
Okay, we certainly understand that, Mr. Kraus. And we, as we do, we have the staff report, and they go through and they will remind people. They give us green font if everything's fine.
Yep.
Give us yellow font if there's a caution. They give us red font in the recommendations if something's not in compliance. In your instance, there is yellow font, and that means, just as you explained to us, that there are things that you're not in compliance with, even from standpoint of what could be done.
Sure.
Because what, could be done is you could still have the 5-foot fence without the variance, but you're gonna lose a lot of yard to do that. Okay?
Absolutely.
And just because you have the corner lot, you shouldn't have to not be able to have advantage of your property. So on that basis, that's why staff made the recommendation to us for you, that even though it's not, there are things you could do to mitigate the need for this, those remedies really wouldn't be proper to try and enforce as part of the ruling. So, this, seemed to be pretty clear. Commissioners, did we have any questions or comments of the petitioner?
I'm not sure, excuse me. I'm not sure if it's for you, Patrick, or for Sarosh, but you indicated that one of your neighbors already has a 5-foot fence? Did I not hear you say this?
So everybody in the community has 5-foot fences. There is some precedence with a corner lot that may have that does have a 5-foot fence now. Again, there are some unique variables to that because there's actually some elevation within our neighborhood, so they back up to a retaining wall. So there's actually a fence that runs along their entire side yard all the way to the front of the house, again, for safety reasons, but then they were permitted from the side of their house to the retaining wall to have a fence higher than 3 feet. Again, some precedents, but also a little bit of a unique situation with the retaining wall.
So my question is, who granted that permission?
That was granted through the PUD of the entire subdivision. When it
So
first came to
precedence
us,
in the way has already been set.
in a manner of speaking.
Yeah,
yes.
so basically, and I heard you say you're gonna tie into that fence anyways.
I'm tying into my interior neighbor's existing
5-foot
fence. Correct.
So precedence has been set, the PUD allowed it. So from my standpoint, this seems that even though you do have the yellow, based on what is already there, I find it that this thing does not negatively impact
Correct.
anything. So from so that's the question I had. It's been answered. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. Jake?
No.
Scott?
I'm gonna get in a little bit of a detail. I don't know if you have all the slides that were provided within this?
I do. That was provided to me, and many of them were actually compiled by me, so I'm fairly familiar.
Okay, so in the photo that says backyard 3,
You can bring it up if you'd like, yeah.
appears
There you go.
that
You can
it
just
is-
use the arrow keys to move forward, yeah.
appears from the previous aerial photo, okay,
Yes.
right here. It looks like you're looking east, basically from the road,
Correct.
and the fence that you'd be tying into is in the background, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and this is a ornamental metal aluminum fence,
Yep.
and it's not a privacy fence.
Absolutely. We're only allowed to have aluminum or wrought iron ornamental fences of that kind. It's very specific within our HOA board.
Okay, so you'd basically be matching the fence.
100% exact match to the existing fence that's there.
And just for clarification, that particular fence is entirely within the backyard of that property because that property is not a corner property.
Yeah, I
And
get
so by right, they were allowed to have a 5-foot fence. So Mr. Kraus's fence will just connect to that fence or be close to or attached to it.
Understood. That was it, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And besides the staff's comments to it, also the fact, Mr. Kraus, that you have the HOA's approval for it as well as your neighbors, certainly goes to the approval grant, or the recommendation being allowed, because it seems like you've tried to cover all the bases. I think you've done a good job. So, is there anyone in the audience that wish to speak on this item? No, okay. Are we ready to move to deliberation? All right.
Sure.
Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on application PZC 2024-09 and move to deliberation.
So moved.
Thank you, Jake.
Second?
Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Marks,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. Okay, deliberation?
As I stated, I don't see any negative impact. It's been approved by the HOA. It's been done before through the PUD. So this is basically somebody who's saying, hey, I'm just going to jump on board to match everything else. And as Scott pointed out, it's going to match exactly because they have their rules of the HOA. So I see no negative impact on this at all.
Jake?
I have nothing original to add.
Should we do this the Roman way? On application PZC 2024-09, I will entertain a motion to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff, and to receive the testimony presented by the applicant, by the PCC members and by village staff at tonight's public hearing, and to make these standards and testimony a part of the official record for the application and findings of the PCC, and to recommend that the village board approve the application for a variation of the height of a new fence proposed in the corner side yard of a property within Avery Ridge subdivision located within the R5 single-family residential district.
So moved.
Thank you, Jake.
I'll second.
Thank you, Scott. Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Marks,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. So, this recommendation that we have had unanimously for you will mean that the application will appear before the village board at an upcoming meeting in August on a date yet known.
Most likely August 5th.
So,
I will stay in touch with you with the final details.
Perfect, thank you.
good luck and welcome to the village.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's time and consideration. Have a good evening.
Thanks. And enjoy those twins. Okay, the next time our agenda is going to be PCC 2024-06 for 909 South Rand Road, a special use permit. This is an application for a special use permit to establish a cannabis dispensary operated by Duchess as a property located in the B1 Local and Community Business District. Staff, could you now please introduce the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also wanted to state that for both applications, proper notice was provided through the newspaper notice to surrounding properties within 250 feet and a sign placed at the property. All of that was done in accordance with the requirements of our ordinances. And this evening, we do have two presentations. The one that will begin will be by Mr. Jason Sapphire of Fidelity, the owner of the property, followed by Mr. Tyler Manig, the attorney for Duchess, who will also have a presentation, talk a little bit more about the company. So, Mr. Sapphire, if you'd like to get to the podium, you can use the remote mic if you'd like, and if that doesn't work, I have another one for you. Yes. At the request of the commission, they have brought material samples for the commissioners to look at.
Excuse me, I just have to recover from passing out because
Samples?
samples, seriously? We didn't have them yesterday. I'm just saying. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, thankfully, this is really loud. Thankfully, this isn't our first time here. So, Chair Stratman and fellow commissioners, thank you for having us tonight. And Sarosh and Colleen, I don't know that we've met, but nice to meet you. But Sarosh and the team has been great helping us walk this through the process again. But we're excited to be here tonight and present another project. Don't know how many more projects we have in Lake Zurich, but excited to do at least one more. So, but I'll jump right in to our presentation. If you could pull it up for me. The one that's up here is not the one. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Good-looking group.
You did bring it up on the screen.
Yeah, excellent. Perfect. So as we said, this is 909 South Rand Road, which, if you're familiar with it, you can see it up there. It is the old Hawkeye Automotive, the probably one and only first Quonset hut that has been in Lake Zurich. That, from what I hear from just about everybody, they're excited for that to come down at this point. And it's about time because it's pretty tired. So, give you a little background. Most of you know me. I'm Jason Sapphire. Been owner now, president of the Fidelity Group. Now that Dad's retired, he's probably watching online. So hello, Dad, if you are. But been business partners in the village here, and we call ourselves residents because we live locally. But I grew up here. Went to Lake Zurich High School, but been doing business in Lake Zurich for 35 years, and blessed to be able to do it still, and have a really good track record of having really well leased properties. Happy to report we are officially 100% leased now in our retail portfolio, which is one of the first times in a long time in the company's history. So that's excellent for us. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So we're excited to bring another, build a new building and bring another tenant to Lake Zurich, and build another quality property that would match similarly to our other properties. So as I had said, and I don't know that we've ever demonstrated this before on a slide, but the way this project's going to work is the developer will be JAS Development, which is one of our companies, and the GC will be Fidelity Construction, which is another one of our companies. So we will build it ourselves, and then our management
How
company
did
will
you
be
arrive at JAS?
very, very cute. Yeah, I think you can figure that out. Yeah. But then a new management name that you may not have seen before, that is JAS Management LLC. It's usually the Fidelity Group, but that's one of our new management companies that is managing some smaller properties for us. And then currently we have a signed lease with Duchess Cannabis, who will be our tenant, which is here tonight to speak about their operation as soon as I'm done. And we are going to construct a new building, 3,500 square feet, with the building materials demonstrated before you, and I'll take you through a little bit of some 3D renderings and some colored renderings as we get on with the presentation.
Good, thank you.
So as we did mention previously, and I think I just want to point out what's important, is the 909 project is there highlighted in the red, adjacent to the Village Square Shopping Center, or excuse me, the Deer Path Commons Shopping Center. And I did the aerial so that we could see, which I'm sure you all know, but the relationship to the residential homes behind. We do have 2 homes that directly border the property. One of them is here tonight, and I have met with Mr. Horwath as of yesterday, and did speak with one of the other residents that borders our property, and we have good amicable relationship between us, talking about the property, some of the things we can do even differently at like our current shopping center with trash pickups and some of the other things that would benefit them, and then ways that we're going to landscape the property, trees that they would like to save if we can save them, fence materials, and things like that. So the good news is that we have, support from the neighbors, as we know it as of yesterday at about, I don't know, about 1 o'clock when he left my office. So that's good news for the project. I included the Plata survey just to demonstrate how the current configuration is of the property with the building. I'm sure you've all driven by it many times, but it's a center building in the center with parking that goes all the way around the property. We are going to change that, as you'll see in the site plan, which I'm sure you did see in your packets. The building will be shifted to more towards the south, towards the Deer Path Commons Shopping Center, with the parking field all to the north side of the property. So just wanted to demonstrate how the property is currently sitting. Here's an engineering drawing. It's probably pretty hard to see, but you do have it in your packet. But I did leave all the grading on there. Sometimes we clean that up and just give you a geometric site plan, but we left the grading on because you can see that the grading is not changing dramatically. The build's going to be actually a really simple build from the standpoint of take down the building, remove the existing asphalt, the existing curbs that are there, just shift everything over and some slight grading. But we're actually using the same curb cut that's there for drainage, adding 1 storm inlet, and then the whole parking lot's gonna sheet drain to that 1 inlet, which does meet the engineering requirements. Our team's already met with Manhard, the village engineer, and we are leaving the driveway connection that is from Deer Path Commons to this property, and then the entrance is gonna remain the same. So really the only thing that's changing is asphalt, moving the building over, constructing a new building, new curbing, and then re-landscaping the whole property.
Jason, on the site part, was there an existing grease trap for this building that needs to be addressed?
There was, yeah. It's already been cleaned. When we bought the property, we cleaned it all out. We had Future Grease come, cleaned it. It's actually been abandoned at this point because we don't have a function for it right now. But it will have to come out and taken. It's a triple basin system, the oil separator and the whole thing for the floor drains. But that will be leaving. I'll probably build the building as I always do. I will. We'll build it with an internal grease interceptor. What we always do in all of the buildings we build so that we can have future ease to tenant them is we'll put the interceptor in, the grease line, and then put the, black water sanitary line in throughout the whole building, so we could always tie into it in the future.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
of course. Was there any other questions on the engineering drawing before I move forward? No. What you see before you here is, usually one of the most important things I get question-wise is when we're going to build is, what's it gonna look like after it's done? So, this is the tree preservation plan, because we always want to demonstrate what we're gonna save, what trees are gonna be saved. Tree counts have already been done and tagged. The trees, so the trees that are gonna be saved are shown on this plan. Hard to see right now, but it does show up on the next slide, which is the actual landscape plan, which will show the new plant vegetation that's gonna be installed and going in. Here's the new landscape plan, which I think I'm actually really like it. I think it's gonna turn out great. It's well planted, as we always try and do, on the residential property lines. On the front of the building, we try to keep the minimal amount of landscaping so that we don't block signage and don't block, lines of sight from, obviously, Route 12. We kept a lot of the lower stuff to the side of the building that abuts my property and put most of that larger vegetation towards the back of the property, still meeting requirements and not asking for any variances on front yard, side yard, rear yard, opacity that is required. So I just think it's gonna, the way it lays out with the new parking lot and the landscaping, I just think it's gonna be a nice property. One thing I'll add that we didn't show on here that we're definitely going to be adding is a sidewalk connecting the Deer Path Commons, that's Outlot H, we call it internally. Outlot H is parking lot up to the new property. Which one's the pointer button? Maybe the top. It's the top. There we go. So this area right in here, this is where that sidewalk will go, and we're gonna run that sidewalk kind of right in front of the building here, meander it around that tree, and then kind of come up along the front of the building all the way to this parking area. That way that if somebody, because we'll have cross easement parking between our two properties, so if someone were to park on either side, they could use that sidewalk safely to communicate between the two properties. So they wouldn't have to go all the way out to the Route 12, sidewalk in the parkway out there. They could just use the internal sidewalk. So that would be added as well. It's not on the engineering or not on this, but it will be added internally. And obviously for the permit drawings before we submit them. Any questions on landscape before we move on?
Well, while we're on that, so the ones along the south side of the property and the west, are those going to be evergreen for screening year-round? Because deciduous, we know, drop their leaves.
Let me hold the microphone here and roll up there so I can take a look real quick. Do you have a copy I could borrow? Thank you, that's great. That's easier for the mobility challenged.
Oh, I see there's a key on the right, evergreen.
Yep.
Okay,
Oh,
The key's cut off on this one.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, we took a look at the plan, and we saw that there is a mix of evergreen
There's a
and
mix.
deciduous.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that is typically what we recommend. We have 5 plant classes in our zoning code, which kind of offer different variations to property owners to use to achieve the peripheral landscaping. And in these cases, we typically recommend that if there are dissimilar uses between what's on one property versus what's on another, that certain types of landscaping that are year-round screening be used,
Yep.
and that's what we'll work with them for.
Right.
But
And
we
I
noticed that
see,
that is already on there.
Jason, that you do have, effectively with the evergreen, you create a pretty, almost complete screen to the south and west, so that's good, thank you.
Absolutely.
Using the existing as well
Mhm.
to the south, it looks like.
And there is an existing fence too.
Correct.
That separates this property from properties both on the south and the west.
Okay.
Which we might as well mention right now is when I met with Mr. Horvath yesterday, we did discuss the fence or a precast wall option, because that was something I did mention in the courtesy review. And we've kind of talked through it as the two property owners that would be adjacent. And he would prefer that we don't put a precast wall, and I would prefer, just from a maintenance standpoint, like if you look at our property at Walmart, over the years, what happens is when those bottom panels deteriorate out, it's almost impossible to replace those bottom panels. You have to actually unstack the whole wall. And then as you're unstacking those top sections, they usually break. So what we've discussed is probably a 6-foot board-on-board fence that would be, you can't see through. And we'd use something nice like a cedar and would stain it so that it would be attractive instead of a stockade. It would be a nice-looking fence. And we both seem to be, they seem to be happy with that, and that's fine with me, because obviously it's easier for maintenance. So that if we do have a panel that breaks, because usually what happens is when the snow leans and packs up against it on the bottom and freezes, it ends up caving in the bottom panels. So we just feel a fence would be a better option for this smaller of a property in this use.
And as from a procedural point of view, we will also recognize that there could be a 6-foot fence in the code, because typically fences in rear yards, as we just found out, can't exceed 5 feet. So we will recognize that this will be a 6-foot fence as part of the conditions for approval of the special use permit.
Perfect.
Jason, if I may,
Sure.
since you've opened this door, I'd rather just get it. So you've got the sidewalk internally,
Mhm.
and right next to that sidewalk, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can drive from the Hawkeye facility into your property now, correct?
Mhm.
Southward,
Both ways.
both ways. So that's the question I have. Is that road that is going to be there going to be two-way so that people from, let's say the DMV decide that they want to go into your facility, they can go whatever direction
Yes.
that would be, west, and then people can come east as well, so you'll have traffic in both directions, even though into your facility it'll be right in, I'm assuming right out, but then internally it'll be two-way
Correct.
going through.
Yeah,
correct? And
'cause-
then the sidewalk will be next to that.
Correct. Yes, it'll remain two-way. It's currently two-way. It'll remain two-way because obviously you'll have two-way traffic. You'll have right-in traffic that would want to go to the shopping center, and you would have exiting traffic from the shopping center going right out, which would then be able to go south down 12.
Correct, correct.
Yes.
Okay,
So yes, yeah,
Thank you.
for sure.
I may also add that that roadway also meets the fire protection requirements for access of emergency vehicles at a minimum of 24 feet wide. So that is another reason
Yep.
why it needs to remain at its width.
Correct. Yeah, and we're not even, I mean, we may replace the curb because if it needs to be replaced, but the plan is the curb doesn't move. We're holding those two curb lines as is, as existing conditions, along with the entrance curb line. And all the curb line on the resident side is actually holding at the same location as well. So,
Are you talking on, I'm sorry, you're talking on the west side of the property or the
Correct.
parking lot? Okay.
correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly. Any other questions on landscape, or can we move on?
Yes, Jason, go ahead.
Thank you. The next slide, which is hard to see for anybody that's viewing online, but this is the photometric plan and photometric study. Obviously, that's another important piece that you're all interested in. Currently, as it's designed, it does meet the current lighting code for Lake Zurich. There is no foot candles spillage over our property and within a certain footage. And we did have another conversation with the residents about, we're gonna work with them even after it's built, right? Even if it passes code and everything, and they're sitting in their house, in their living room, and they can see a hot spot. Because I know it's not always the light, but sometimes it's, you're having dinner and you're looking and there's a hot spot, or you're in your bedroom and you're looking out and there's a hot spot because you can see this light. Even after the fact, because we manage the property, we can put an internal deflector in to deflect that light a different way. So, again, we understand what we need to do from a code standpoint, but there's also being a good neighbor that we never shy away from, because we live here too. So, but we went with shorter poles. I believe the poles, I haven't revisited since they redesigned it, but I think they're 20 foot. I'm pretty confident they're 20 footers. I've even thought about lowering them to 15 if we can get away with it for light coverage, because I think that would be better from the standpoint for the residents. And if not, then we'll use a 20-foot pole, but we could put a gooseneck in that lowers the head, because I think that's a little more decorative, and I think I kind of want this, as you'll see in the 3D, which you've already seen, or the rendering, we want this property to look a little different than your traditional commercial property. We just don't want it to look like another, and I've built a bunch of them, so I'm calling myself out, cookie cutter kind of retail shopping center.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this at the courtesy review, it's because my daughter's now an interior designer. College money went to good use, and when she started to design this, she said, this is gonna be different, and then when she approved it, we had someone else do the drawing, she looked at it, she said, this looks good, Dad. So it has her blessing, so, it'll look a little different than things we've built in the past, so. That's why we want it to be a little more streetscapey with some of the, sidewalk plantings and things that we do in that regard as well. And then the last slide is the actual building, which the materials are here before you. We did add the signage of Duchess Cannabis onto the building so you could see it. We do have the brick. It's not gonna be utility size, it'll be regular size, standard size brick, because again, that more of a residential or more of a not so traditional retail look instead of the utility size brick. We went with the stack stone instead of the traditional full flagstone or things like that. Or a lot of times what we've done in the past is for the accents, we would use a split face block, which just gives it such a commercial look. So we're trying to go more with the stack stone look, which is here before you. And then as much as it pains me to do this, I love it from a look, but it's as a management, the hope is that Duchess is gonna be here for a really long time, so I never have to change the sign. But the minute you use siding in a sign ban, you have to replace siding as soon as the sign leaves. Where when you put up Drive It, we can just have a guy come and skim coat it. But for the look, I think it really is a good look to have the hardy board siding, which we have here. And these colors are already selected, so these are the colors you see before you will be the real colors on the building. And then it'll just be a standard brushed aluminum storefront at this point. So we went with the coping, as you can see, is gonna be darker, along with, that will be Drive It on the cornice on the top, but that's gonna be like a darker gray. I couldn't get a sample of that color because it's more of a paint, but it's gonna be like a charcoal gray instead of your standard white that always shows the dirt marks as the dirt run, or the water runs over the top of the cornice. So, but that's all I have before you tonight, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have, and we're just excited about this new development that we're bringing. As I said, it could be one of our last in Lake Zurich, so we want to make it a good one. And I have our tenant here with us tonight that wants to go through a quick presentation of what their business is going to be and how they're going to operate per all the state laws, ordinances, and all that stuff, which I know nothing about. I'm just going to be a good landlord.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Before we move on, Jake, you're our walkability guy. Do you have a question about how they're gonna handle that going up to connecting to Deer Path Road?
I think the proposal as drawn up actually accounts for it. So it seems like you're ahead of the village sentiment in that regard. So, I mean, if there's any aspect to increase pedestrian traffic within Deer Path and then this adjoining development, you seem to have accounted for it already. So I think he's ahead of me, Orlando.
Okay,
Great.
he's got it. All right, good,
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Well, he's my guy for that, that's why I asked.
Perfect.
All right.
And I'm not going anywhere, obviously, so if you have more questions, just
Okay.
yell at me.
I
Antonio's getting ready to fire one up over there.
think so. And I appreciate that you spoke with the neighbors. How far away is this facility from the homeowners that you've talked to? Distance-wise?
I don't have the exact footage, but I'm sure we could pull that up. You mean from to their property line or to their houses?
I believe we have something on record that says that we signed off that a facility of this nature cannot be closer than 250 feet, correct? So I want to make sure, go ahead.
Units.
Oh, no, that, well.
Group.
Yeah,
Group.
from group homes, and group homes were removed. So these homes will not be part of what we call the sensitive uses that a dispensary is supposed to be distanced from.
Okay. Then it doesn't matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners, for allowing us to present here tonight. For the record, my name is Tyler Manick, M-A-N-I-C. I'm an attorney with Shane Banks, Kenny and Schwartz. I'm the attorney for, well, my address is 70 West Madison, Chicago, Illinois, Suite 5400. I'm the attorney for the applicant Rubino Ventures LLC, which does business as Duchess, and we're going to refer to it tonight as Duchess. I'm joined by Alexis Biji-Prow, the applicant's representative, and their design team, David Fettner and Patrick Coyne. All of us will be available to answer questions after the presentation. Duchess is seeking a special use to operate a cannabis dispensing organization at 909 South Rand Road in the new building that Jason just presented. Other than the special use, Duchess does not seek or require any other relief, and the only thing that brings us before this commission tonight is the special use request. The Lake Zurich Code essentially sets forth a two-prong analysis. First, is this use properly located? And second, does this application meet the general standards for a special use? Further, in evaluating these standards for a special use, the law instructs the standard to be whether Duchess's operations present a greater adverse effect above and beyond those inherently associated with other cannabis dispensaries. And I believe, as the thorough staff report points out, I do not believe it does, and this application would meet all the standards in the Lake Zurich Code. In addition, we also presented, hopefully to save on some time, a report where we also bolster the staff report and go through the standards and the land plan behind it. Other than the local standards, Duchess business is also subject to the state's stringent operating requirements. In fact, I think Illinois has one of the strongest regulatory schemes in the country, which really preempts any disruptions from dispensaries, as every aspect of this business is regulated to a T. So not only must this application pass local muster, but we're also subject to continual review of state monitoring. In light of the staff report, and I believe this commission's background in cannabis from past presentations, our presentation is trying to walk the thin line between being efficient with your time, but as well as answering customary inquiries that this commission typically has of special use applications. So if we miss anything through the presentation, just stop us, ask us, or wait till the end and ask us. It wasn't intentional. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Alexis, who's going to be running this store, and she can give you some background about Duchess.
Thank you, Mr. Manick.
They control the presentation in the back. There you go.
Hello, my name is Alexis Biji-Prow. My last name is spelled B-I-G-I-P-R-O-W. I just want to get you guys to get a little bit of time to know who Duchess Cannabis is and who I am and my background that I have in retail and cannabis. So my team right now, we have 3 corporate members. We have a combined experience of 18 years in cannabis. One of my corporate partners actually has been in the cannabis industry since the inception of the program, the medical program, almost 10 years. So she's got a lot of experience that she brings to the table. Me personally, I've been born and raised in retail. I've got 20 years of multi-unit experience in retail. I've worked for companies like GameStop. I've worked in operations management for Amazon. And then I've worked in 2 other cannabis companies. I've been lucky enough to work for a smaller cannabis company that was in Illinois. I've worked for a multi-state operator, and now I'm working for Duchess Cannabis. So I've got a lot of that experience to bring to the table. Currently, we have 2 locations that are up and running. We've got one in Morton Grove, and we've also got one in Oak Park. We do have plans to open additional locations. We should have 3 to 4 more locations by the end of Q1 in 2025. Our proposed location is 909 South Rand Road. Hours of operation, we're looking for Monday to Saturday. We'll be open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then on Sunday, we close an hour earlier, so 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Our number of employees that we're looking at, approximately 14. And on a high end of a shift, so a busier day, we'll look to have 7 associates per shift. That'll go down a little bit on our slower days. So what's the difference between us and other cannabis companies? We are women-owned and women-operated, so we're very excited about that. And we are committed to exceptional customer experience in the stores. I know everybody says that, but that is something that is near and dear to my heart. I am very particular on the service that my associates provide in the store. We've got to be there to create an experience for people as they walk in the door. We always look at exceptional products. We want to make sure that we have quality products to provide our customers as they come in the store. With a curated menu of special products, keeping customers in mind. Different communities will require sometimes different products, and we want to make sure we're bringing that in for the community. One thing that I'm also very proud of is we have a focus on craft infusers. We also have a focus on smaller cultivators and social equity infusers. And there's just an example of 3 of them that we have on our menus currently. The Culinary Cannabis Company, we're going to be first to shelf for them. So we're going to be the first dispensary to actually be carrying their products. And they provide different products that are not currently on the market. In the communities that we are involved in currently, we want to make sure we're good community partners, and we would want to do the same thing with you. So we are involved with the Chamber of Commerce memberships. We also want to make sure that we're doing sponsorships and really partnering with different community events. One of the examples I have is in Morton Grove. We participated in Morton Grove Days, and we were a sponsor for that event, their highest tier sponsor. We made sure we had a table out there, and we're out there meeting the community. And that's something we really want to make sure that we're doing here if you choose us. I know you guys have Alpine Days coming up here shortly, so we want to make sure we would partner in that if allowed, and then also looking at the Rock the Block that you guys do back in September. And then we always collaborate with first responders if there's anything ever needed. The nice thing about our dispensaries, and as we get into it in the slide, we'll talk about security, is we have cameras everywhere in our location, even in the perimeters of the stores. And we've had times where there's been car accidents and incidents that have happened, and we're able to provide those videos and really help out the local police departments. Wanted to give you a sneak peek into Oak Park and Morton Grove. So you can see we actually purchased the MedMen licenses, but we really went in and elevated the look and feel of all the stores. We really have a high-end, a very clean, classy look in the stores. The upper left-hand corner is the MedMen location in Oak Park. It's the vestibule when you first walk in. That's what it looked like before. And then on the right is what it looks like now. We've cleaned it up. We don't have the tables in there. We've got a nice podium as customers come in. You can kind of see through the glass. There's a nice little chair and sitting area. Just really elevated the look and feel of the store. On the bottom left is what the store looked like before. Very sterile, a lot of white paint. It just didn't pop. It didn't have a warm opening feel. We came in, we added library style lights, painted it, changed the logos, the colors, added some texture to the wall, and it just has a very welcoming feeling when you come into the location.
The facility that you have in Oak Park, is that the one that's next to Smashburger?
No, it's across from Sweet Greens and Target. It's right on Lake in Harlem.
Got it, thank you.
This is our Morton Grove location. Again, MedMen up at the top, that bright red just wasn't appealing. It's not that warm opening feeling. And we came in, repainted it, rebranded it, opened it up, added a lot of furnishings to the store. And you can just really see the difference in what we've elevated with the look and the locations. Just a couple other shots of it. I love the textured wall. What? Oh yeah, I was like, we don't look like a bank now. As we talked about before, the automotive repair shop, this is the location that we'll be taking over. I know we walked through the site design before, but just to reiterate on there, I know parking can always be a concern, so we will have 25 parking spots on site with that overflow area and that ability for customers to walk and take that sidewalk. That will increase our parking spaces to 45. So we'll have plenty of parking for our customers that come in. 70% of our business is actually done online, where customers do make pre-orders. That makes the orders a lot faster. So customers can come in, they can get their products and then leave. Typically, and this is on a high end, a transaction where a customer has placed a pre-order is about 8 minutes total. So people want an ease of coming in. They want to come in and get their product and leave. They're not hanging out in our stores. It's a quick in and quick out experience. We also, 60% of our orders are approximately our loyal customers, so they're already familiar with our locations and they know what to do and how to come in, and it just makes that process a lot faster. Floor plan. So the way the state requires us to code our stores in 3 different levels. The first one is in green, and that's going to be general public access. So that's the vestibule when you first walk in the door. You'll have your ID checked. If you have a pre-order, we'll check that order in online. And then you'll move into the yellow, which is considered limited access. Any access point that we have in our locations, you have to have an electronic RFID card to let you in. None of our doors just open. We have to have it that way for security reasons according to state regulations. So you can't move from area to area without, you have to have that employee RFID card. The yellow area is our sales floor. It does require that you are 21 years or older to enter in that location. I am not allowed to let anybody in under the age of 21. This is where you'll line up. Our product displays will be there. The POS will be there. You'll be able to come in and get your product. And then the customers will leave when they go back out the other way through the vestibule. The red is the restricted access area. This is employee-only areas. So we are not allowed to have customers in any of that area. The state is very strict about that. Even if I have somebody who needs to come in and, let's say, repair an HVAC unit, I have to send their name, their company into the state will approve it. Then I can allow them into my facility. And with that, they have to be accompanied with an associate. They have to have their ID scanned, and they have to wear a special badge to come into the restricted access areas, even the limited access areas. So back there, we'll have our secure room. We'll have our IT room, the break room. Our receiving will happen in the back where it's in the restricted access area, and then some offices for the associates.
Alexis, can I interrupt just a second? Did the state change the security requirements after the riots that took place in Chicago and the cannabis store was one of the first that was hit and completely stripped?
No, so we still have, and I have a slide in here, we can walk through the security that's required in our locations. When we're operational, we are required to have a PERC certified security guard. It has to be a third-party company that we hire. It can't be an internal. So we are required to have that security guard on site at all times. If they don't show up for a shift, I can't operate. I can't open. I'm not allowed to according to the state. I'd like to say, I liken it to Vegas. We have cameras everywhere in the location, and it's required when we get inspected, they come in and really look at the cameras to make sure every square foot has a camera. Even my mop closets have to have a camera inside of them.
But if all those requirements were in place already from the state, that's what I'm saying. If all those requirements that are in place now were in place then, how was the facility in Chicago able to be completely stripped?
So all of us are required to have alarm. We have glass breaks, alarm monitoring 24/7. I can see into the cameras. I can see off-site. And the state police can see it, and so can IDFPR. The state is allowed to look into it. You know, I didn't operate any cannabis dispensaries at that time, so I can't speak to what happened specifically in those dispensaries.
Okay.
So, but I think you can, yeah.
Thanks. Hi, how are you? David Fettner, I'm managing partner of Grow America. We're the design build firm. Worked on over 80 dispensaries around the country, but we're right down the street in Highwood, right down 22. Done over 15 dispensaries in Illinois. So actually one of our dispensaries back then was hit, the Midway dispensary on Archer. And there was alarms going off. Now, they didn't get in. They got into the reception area. They couldn't get into the vault because I think it's a 20-hour door that gets installed. Barrier mesh is around the vault. They couldn't even get the ATM out. And by the time they had gotten in and they start getting the crowbar into the ATM, already there was police on the way and employees of the dispensary who live nearby. So I think one of the dispensaries may have been stripped. I think they may have bad SOPs, not what is done here or what we had. But again, that dispensary, they did get in, they got in the reception area, they didn't get any product. couldn't even get the ATM out. So, you know, there's certain things that we did, such as the hinges, we special hinges, so they can't pop the pins out. They're on the inside of the doors. Again, the barrier mesh around the vault with 16 gauge studs and the 20-hour door. It's hard. Even during, you know, riots, we were pretty happy. They damaged windows, they damaged the reception, but there really was no loss monetary wise. Yeah. So
All right, thank you, David.
Thank you.
When we do get inspected by the state, they do require the specs for the doors. Like you said, you have to withstand 20 hours of pounding, and they want to see that the vault is reinforced with the mesh, and they do require all the specs before we pass approval.
Okay, thank you, Alexis.
So, sorry, we skipped ahead a little bit. Oh, I just messed it up. We're done. I'm all done.
You can turn it back
Can
on.
I do it right here? Or I don't want to mess up your screen. I'm done. I'm out of time. So the elevations. So we do want to make sure that you have a chance to see what our signage will look like, and I know Jason showed a little bit about it. Again, really providing that nice, clean look on the outside of the buildings. I don't even like neons in my store. I don't like open signs. I don't like things like that, because it impacts the aesthetics of our location and what we're looking for in our stores. So Duchess Cannabis will be on the outside. We've got the north elevations over here, as well as the side, the west elevations, and then the marquee sign we would like to have out front. But again, very nice, clean look, backlit. Any questions with that? All right, I know I talked a little bit about the security again, but I will go over a few more things. So we are equipped, we do have 24/7 monitoring by a national security company. We have glass breaks alarms, we have motion detectors. Our cameras are always on, they have to. We have to store 90 days worth of video footage, which is required by the state. And sometimes we keep more, but the minimum is the 90 days. We do have to have panic buttons throughout the store. We have them up front, we have them at the POSs, we have them back of house, in the offices, and as well as in the vaults. So we'll have that, and then we've got all the restricted access areas, which will allow us to segment where customers can go. And the nice thing about our system is if I do for some reason need to turn off an employee's RFID, I can turn it off just like that. So they do not have access to the building. We actually don't allow we only allow our management team to take home their key cards, but even our part-time associates and our full-time dispensary associates are not allowed to take those cards home. So they do not have access to the building after hours. We do have the camera coverage, which is 360-degree cameras. We've got individual cameras throughout the store. It is covered. Again, it's just required by the state that we are really covered with those cameras. The state, because we are governed by two different agencies, ISP, Illinois State Police, they have to have 24/7 access to our cameras. So does IDFPR, and they do look in all the time to make sure that we're doing things properly, constantly. And then I have access as well as my corporate team, so if I ever need to see if anything's happening in the store, I have the ability to look in. And then, as I said before, we are required to have a third-party security company on premise at all times, and they are PERC certified from Illinois.
Okay, Alexis, on your two locations existing currently, Oak Park and Morton Grove, have you had any problems where your security needed to act?
No, not
And
at
in
all.
what time frame?
We've been open since May for those locations, but prior companies that I've worked for, it is very rare that we have an incident. You know, you every once in a while you might have a customer that gets upset. That's retail. It happens in any industry, and our managers are help out with that and de-escalate the situation. I would prefer that the security guard doesn't help with an upset customer. My employees are better equipped to handle it and just calm the situation down. But we've never had a major incident. No.
Okay, thank you.
Where does the panic button go to for response?
It goes to the alarm monitoring company, and then they can call the police out for us.
So there's a time lapse that potentially can take place.
Yes.
Why is it that it's not connected directly to, let's say, Lake Zurich Police Department?
It can be. I've had at locations where it is, and it's usually they have to hold it down for 5 seconds to make sure that it goes, and it can call to the police officers in that local jurisdiction. But usually, some of them it goes to the alarm monitoring system. They look, and then it goes to the police.
Ms. Roche, could we see if our chief would like to have that as one of the features for security?
Yeah, we can. If that's the way you would like it set up, we can absolutely work with that.
We can certainly ask. Yeah.
Just from a point of reference too, in all the years of owning shopping centers, our fire goes to a third party, and it always has. So, I mean, I get it that a burglary is an important thing, but most of the time that happens when nobody's there. But a fire, when something's burning down, it still goes to a third party, and then the notification is sent to the fire department. So that's very normal, even with most alarm companies and fire alarms.
I think part of it, Jason, for me is that this isn't your usual type retail place. Let's face it, all right? You're dealing in cash. You're dealing in something that's very different. And as you know, I work a lot in Chicago.
Yeah.
And right on sets, we've got people coming in and grabbing an ATM right off a set
Sure.
for Chicago Fire, and they're often, for me, it's about timing. Again, it's not a game breaker. It was just more curiosity, and I think it raises the question.
Also important, and they can bring it up, but they do allow debit cards now and in dispensaries, so it's not all cash.
Oh, that's a change. I wasn't
yeah.
aware of that.
Yeah.
It's a cashless ATM terminal that's at the register. When I first started in this industry, we didn't have those, and it's an all cash business. But now that we've switched over to that, a lot of people are using that because I don't carry cash on myself as well. Yeah.
Well, again, I think that's part of what is good to know all of a sudden that, hey, things have evolved, things have changed, because I didn't know that you dealt in debit cards. I dealt, from what I understood, all in cash. Be it as it may, still, you just like to have it where, and I appreciate the fact, just what you're saying about the fire department. It's, just, I'd rather be proactive than I would reactive, that's all.
And we do pull money out of the registers. I don't like money I've worked in retail for a very long time. I worked at GameStop, and unfortunately we had a lot of armed robberies in those locations. So there's a lot of safety precautions that we put in place so we don't have a ton of money sitting in the register that customers can directly see. That money goes through a pass-through back into the vault, and it's put immediately into the safe.
I will say one other thing on this topic is just because, we do work coast to coast, so we see a lot of these projects, a lot of different states. Dispensaries aren't the target like they were in the beginning. I think the word is out, they're not an easy target because of the 100% surveillance, because of usually some security on site, and also there's not so much cash as there used to be. So the fact a few years ago, yes, they were targets, right? But I think they realized that it's hard to get into. The vaults are always super secure. So it's not like how it used to be. And again, a big part of that is that a lot of it not much cash anymore.
And I think part of the reason that I bring this up is that, as you know, this is being televised to our town. They don't know this. So by them looking at this, hearing those responses, that's good for them to hear as opposed to them not knowing. Because again, it's all about the optics. So for us to ask those questions, for me to ask, it's more for them to hear it since they're going to be watching this. Thank you.
I love cannabis, and again, coming from an industry where we had a lot of armed robberies in locations, there's a lot of regulations that the state has in place that keep everybody safe, even down to the height of the counters that we have to have, the door systems, with the RFIDs, with what we have the vault surrounded with, the 20-hour pounding on the door, all the cameras and the alarm systems. I feel so much safer in this industry than when I worked at a GameStop.
Can't even see to the back of the house.
Yeah.
We have to
Sorry,
make sure that.
microphone.
Sorry.
Sorry. Part of the design process too, you can't even see into the back of the house from the sales floor. So the state did put a lot of good requirements in there for safety.
Right. Thank you.
And again, not to belabor the point, but again, for people to hear this, because when this first came before us, as far as whether we were going to have a dispensary in town or not, these were the issues that came up from all the residents. And so them to hear this and to see how it is progressing within the industry. I mean, we just saw a big change in the industry no more than a couple of months ago as to where the legalities are, right? So as this thing evolves, people need to know, and so this is why the questions, just so that everybody else can hear it, that's all. Thank you.
Because I think Thoreau's timeline, the last time we did this for a public hearing was 2 years?
2021, yes.
Yeah. So there's things have changed that we weren't aware of. So Alexis, we appreciate you bringing that to our attention and explaining it to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So it'll come back up.
And
Perfect.
Antonio, POS means point of sale.
I'm so
Not
sorry.
what you would
use
think.
I'm so bad with acronyms. I'm sorry. I know this slide is really small, but we want you to see that we have a timeline for construction, and we want to make sure that we do have the construction team here. You know, we have a plan. Everything is planned out. When we start, if approved, we will start on 12/16, and we plan to be done on 3/6 with the construction. That's outside of your construction.
So that's important to know. That's when I will turn that over to them, and they will be doing their internal. I'm building a shell.
Gotcha.
So I'm building the shell building. I'm building what's called a warm dark shell. So I will put the rooftop units in. It will have no lighting in it. It will have an electrical panel, and it won't have plumbing. It won't have sinks, but it'll have water and sewer in it. So my plan is, it's very selfishly driven, is I'm going to turn this over by December 1st because I'm leaving for Florida then. And I don't want to have this project under construction while I'm gone. So that's when I will have this done before Thanksgiving, shell turned over to them, and then they will start their interior build-out. And the schedule you see before you is for their operations, for their internal build-out, and then for them to open for operation. My plan is to start as soon as I get approval. If things go well here tonight, I will be submitting for permit so that we can run that process parallel with the next 3 to 4 weeks before we go to the village board, submitting for a demo permit. Hopefully the building comes down in the next few weeks. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
And speaking on timing, 'cause I know timing's always a sensitive, topic. We have all selections. We have everything we need. There's no lead time issues with all the interior fit outs. Again, these projects are all we do. We only do cannabis projects, dispensaries, et cetera. So as far as the timeline, we're very confident in meeting those target dates.
You'll beat the other one.
That's the plan.
And I've had experience opening new locations for the other multi-state operator that I work for, so I'm very versed in the compliance that's needed for the state to pass their inspection to get up and running, and then obviously taking over the 2 locations. We still had to get some sort of re-inspection done with the state before we open, so I'm very well versed on how to get those on time. I have yet to have an inspection where they haven't come out and we've approved, so knock on wood.
Good.
Um,
Scott,
and-
you seem
I'm
to have
sorry.
a question. You want to?
You brought up lead time. Are things like the vault or anything like that, like an exceptionally long lead time that are more niche driven?
No, not anymore. The only lead time issue that gives us heartburn, and it's not an issue in this one, is switchgear, electrical switchgear, which
That's nationwide.
that's nationwide, right? And I know that's already ordered, and that's not an issue. But everything else, as far as the big issues that we used to come across was doors and hardware and the barrier mesh. No lead times on any of those. In fact, I think we already have stockpiled the barrier mesh, so that's not an issue. So, no, we plan on, as soon as it gets handed off to us, we're off to the races with everything we need.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I have the switchgear in stock already.
There you go.
Can I call you? No, I'm kidding.
So just wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about dispensary density and what's in this area. So we've had a survey conducted in the Chicagoland municipalities to really calculate the density of dispensaries comparable to some of the other surrounding areas. So if you look at Highwood, and I know you guys can read it, so I won't go through every slide on it, but you can see we're not saturated in this market, and we're very excited to be here because it doesn't have that saturation. And then taking a look at population served. So currently, the closest cannabis dispensary is located in Palatine. It's 3.5 miles away from our proposed location. So this is the 3.5 mile circle radius that we have for our area and where our dispensary is going to be located. So we do have, within the municipality, is 3.5 radius, and it includes the cities listed up here, and some of the population. So we're not concerned about density. We've got a lot of population we can serve, and we do feel like this is an underserved area, and we can provide cannabis to the customers out in this area.
And question to staff, Sarosh, in terms of our own ordinance, the distance from this to what would be a proposed location at some point in time is what?
The actual distance, I thought I had it in our staff report. I think it was about 3,000 feet. The minimum required is 1,500 feet by state statute.
Well within.
Well above that,
Well
well
above,
beyond, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have, so I'm here for
Alexis.
questions.
Commissioners? Jake? You have questions for deliberation, or?
Yeah, I guess if we brought up the third-party security, just in terms of that, is there like an auditing process for the response time? So if the police chief is like, no, I have enough on my plate, I don't want the direct line to the police department, do you have a mechanism to audit your third-party security for their response time?
Their alarm systems, yes. We will I actually get reporting on if I hit that panic button, how long it takes for somebody to respond.
Oh, great.
And just so you know too, I'll throw this out here for security. We internally have to do an audit on all of our security systems every month as required by the state regulations. So we test our panic buttons. We go through and look at every single camera. They have to be functioning in order for me to operate, but we really go through and look at it. We look and make sure all our recording time, we've got the 90 days worth of footage, and we also set the panel alarm. We put it in test mode, set the panel alarm, and I have to get a report and keep a record of that, and so I can turn that into the state on audits.
Gotcha, thank you. And then I guess I did have one other question, and obviously you all are much more steeped in the legislative and policy aspect of this, but I believe, is this a consumer cannabis only or medical as well?
No, we are adult use only.
Adult use only,
Yeah, the
okay.
state isn't giving out any more medical license, so and we were lucky enough with the MedMen to acquire both.
I see.
But no, it will be all adult use going forward.
Okay, so that answers my subsequent question, so I think I'm good.
Thank you, Jake.
I do have one, sorry. Jason, what is the length of the contract that you are signing with them?
It's a 10-year lease.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, with a 10-year renewal.
Thank you so much.
Scott, any questions for deliberation?
My question is, okay, so you've got, you mentioned something about, your associates are better served to de-escalate. Do you go through?
Managers,
I'm sorry?
the managers specifically.
Okay, so I know they go through training. Is it like a specified protocol that the state has like certain amount of training?
So the state requires us by regulation to send our associates through 8 hours of training a year, and there are specific buckets of training that we have to go through. I'll give an example. We do have to do the Illinois sexual harassment training. We have to do what's called responsible vendor training, and that is required every year that we take it. It's about a 2-hour training course online. And then there's some other trainings that they have to do with compliance because it's such a big thing in our industry. Me personally, in the last companies that I've worked for, de-escalation training has been very important because you're in retail, and in any retail industry that I've worked in, we've got to train our teams how to de-escalate upset customers. But as far as, I've never had issues in the store. It's usually just a customer who might be upset about something, maybe a product they didn't like or didn't work, but I've never had major issues in the dispensary in all the years that I've worked here.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And Jason, question in terms of security, doesn't one of your tenants nearby have personnel on site all day at the Secretary of State's office?
They do, yes, yeah. They have, I believe they have 2 personnel there all the time,
All
one
the time.
outside and one inside as well, yes.
Okay. So that's a pretty effective deterrent in of itself, built in for the location.
For the Secretary of State you're referring to?
Yeah, for this location to be where it would be, having Secretary of
Absolutely.
State's.
Yeah, because there's also,
Yeah,
yeah, there's also Secretary of State police that do stop by there quite often too. So there, yeah, I think to your point, that's a good call out because there is a lot of activity, security activity already at the shopping center.
okay.
We do make sure that our guards walk the property inside and out. We don't keep them in one location. And again, I keep referring back to state regulations, but there's a lot in here. But they are required to wear their logoed shirts. They can't just have on a normal hoodie if it's cold out. Everything has to be visible. The logos have to be visible, as well as their park cards.
All right. Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this tonight? Were you sworn in, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Would you step to the podium, say your name for the record? Name and address, please.
My name's William Howarth. I live at 328 Denbury Drive here in Lake Zurich, and I live directly south of the property. We have that, I don't know, maybe 200-foot backline fence on the south side of the property. I have discussed the build-out and development with Fidelity Construction and Jason Zafire. I'm very satisfied with what he's provided with me with. I think it sounds like a good project. I have discussed it with some of my neighbors, and they have some, a couple of them have concerns similar to the ones that you've already brought up. I do have some concerns myself, and I've discussed many of those with Jason already. One other concern that I was brought to light tonight was the security system and the cameras. Now, my property, my actual bedroom window is maybe 75 feet from my property line, and then the building is another 60 feet from the property line at the most. So it's, 50 yards would probably be a strong guess. And I keep the windows open. I keep the shades open a lot of the time. Hawkeye is slightly elevated from my property, and the fence provides some privacy, but there's not the building the size of the building that there will be height-wise. And I am concerned with all the security cameras. I don't want the security cameras on my backyard or my house in my back window all the time. So I will ask for assurances from the company that they will maintain the cameras at the fence line and down, not looking back at my property.
I can speak to what I know from my experience. I've been on many inspections with Illinois State Police, IFDPR. So they go through and they check every camera at the monitor, right? Okay, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. They're very sensitive to neighbors, and they make sure that if there's a camera, I gotta go up there, okay, sorry.
Even though you use the mic, I think the camera doesn't focus now to that area as easily.
All right, I'll
Thank
I'll
you.
start over. Hi. So I've been on many inspections across the state with Illinois State Police and IFDPR. They go through camera to camera, right? Camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, and they look, number one, to make sure that it has the correct surveillance and coverage. But they're also very sensitive to the exterior cameras and neighbors. I've seen them adjust them because they do get adjusted at that inspection, and they will adjust if this one looks like it's, hitting a property, over a property line. Hey, can you adjust this, however many degrees? So that is something that they do go through, and Alexis could probably speak as well to it. But I have seen that in person actually happen.
Go ahead. Did you need to?
Well, I was just going to say, we appreciate that concern, and we're confident that concern won't come to fruition. So we can make that a condition of the ordinance that won't happen.
Okay.
Already made a note.
So with that being said, and that assurance that those adjustments will be made, and then provisions so that they can't be readjusted by the next person who is the next manager in 20 years. I don't have any objections at this time to this location and this build-out. So,
Okay.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, William.
I can answer that really quick.
I think we're good.
Oh.
Okay. So, Jason, do you have something else to add before? Okay. Are we ready to move to deliberation? Go. Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing and move into deliberation on application PZC 2024-06.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Marks,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. Okay, so Antonio, we'll start with you.
First, great project. And if there's anything I can say about this is the fact that knowing Jason and John as long as I have, I mean, they don't build garbage. They build really nice things. And so when Jason says this is what they're doing, the proof is in the pudding as far as what they do with their neighbors. I saw when the Freddies went up and what they did in order to appease a lot of the neighbors right there. I mean, you didn't have to, and yet you did. And every time that you don't have to, you still do. And that's one of the beauties for me about what Fidelity has been in our town forever. I mean, you do fabulous work. From the tenant side, I like the fact of what, Scott, you brought up about, or somebody brought up about the de-escalating training, which is important, regardless of who comes in the door, because whether it's about retail or just somebody in general. So that's good for me. I like the fact that there's a contract in play for 10 years. So we're looking at some long-term, not some very short-term that's there. I love the timeline, as I said, facetiously, but you're going to beat out the first place that's been before, that's been up for 2.5 years and isn't even up yet. And I think you'll probably beat them. So that all said, I love the fact that you're minority owned. That is fabulous. So I give you a lot of kudos to that. So I see this as being a positive, and I remember if we go back a number of years when this thing first came before us, the concept of dispensaries, there was a lot of pushback, and now just based on the fact that there's nobody in the audience, it seems like people are starting to settle into where it's at, right? It is what it is. And but I love the product from the standpoint of what Jason's going to build. It's a nice, good-looking building. I mean, for me, it resonates exactly with the building that's in Skokie that was built. I'm not sure about the one in Crystal Lake that's right off of Northwest Highway, and that one seems to be a little weathered. But I like the fact that this is here. And I love the fact that, like I said, I almost fell over, that we've got samples to look at for a change. How long have we been asking for that? So from my side, I like this project. I am very much in favor of sending it up with a positive recommendation.
Good. Thank you, Antonio. Jay?
Just as a point of clarification from the presentation, in accordance with what Antonio was saying, there would be an additional dispensary within Lake Zurich, but even on the basis of the figures that you outlined, the density would be such that we wouldn't be oversaturated. So I think that's an important point to make. And then all the pros that Antonio mentioned, and I'll just say from a standpoint of, reviewing the business plan, it does seem like this is a bit of more of a niche product or like a specialized product where it's not like a cookie cutter bargain bin dispensary. I understand the customer loyalty aspect of why people would continue to patronize this sort of establishment. So yeah, a positive recommendation for me as well.
Thank you, Jay. Scott?
Great presentation. I can tell you guys are all well adversed in this and construction and in the business and everything. I agree. When I saw the floor plan and the elevations and everything, I think everything's been really well thought out. I don't know what else needs to be said.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
And to echo what he said, the package that we received was very well prepared. Obviously, understanding what the requirements are of the village, you repeated them back and then answered each of them in your own narrative, so that was nicely done for us. Thank you. And as Jace has heard me say a number of times, we look to staff for their guidance with the font color technique that they use in the staff report. And green is good, yellow is a caution, red's no good. you're all green. So you've met all the requirements that they've got. Huh?
It's apropos.
Yeah, it's apropos, it's green. And I think you have the perfect product to be able to de-escalate the situation. You got the product to do that, right? It should be easy, you don't need the training. And I do like the architectural style of the building, has a bit of a Frank Lloyd Wright flair to it with the parapet on top. I kinda like that. So that's nicely done. So, yeah, I think it's a good project for the village, Jason. Thank you for bringing it in, and thank you, Duchess. So are we ready to hear a motion? All right, let me see what frame
Mr.
it.
Chairman, I just have a comment to make too.
Go ahead, please, Suresh.
I just want to kind of state that we do have the special regulations for cannabis dispensaries, which they've addressed. I also want to point out that two that were not really talked about, one being that there will be no on-premise consumption or usage, which they've agreed to, and that there will be no visibility of the product from the outside to the inside through tinting or whatever treatment of glass that they use, but that is part of a state regulation anyway. And there would be no flashing lights, searchlights, or any other attractive lighting that would be permitted on the premises or in the surrounding areas. And then, of course, we will have to go through the permitting process. Thank you again for sharing your timeline with us, and we are very confident that you would go through with that. But in light of the situation of the other cannabis place that's kind of in the process of being completed, staff has been prompted to take a look at the time period for special use permits, which is currently 2 years, and would like to recommend that in all special use permits that are being considered here onwards for single site development, that a recommendation will be made to require the special use permit be valid for a period of 1 year, which means that within that 1 year period, you get your permits and begin construction, which we've already heard. So that would be our recommendation for an additional condition to be added. The other two conditions that I made a note of would be the 6-foot fence along the west and the south, should you choose to do that. At this point, we would obviously have that reviewed through the permitting process. And the other one being that the security cameras be located, focused, and directed only to locations on the premises and not off the premises, with particular respect to properties to the west and to the south. Those conditions will be added. As a recommendation from the Plan Commission, we will also consult with our PD to see whether they would want or require the panic button to direct directly to the PD. We have not heard one way or the other in the past whether that would be necessary, but we will check with them, and if so, we will contact you. Otherwise, they have met all the requirements of our code, as you saw through our staff report. We were making a recommendation for approval at this point with these additional conditions added.
All right, thank you, Sarosh.
I would like to add to that then. I like the conditions Sarosh has said, but at the end of 1 year, I want then that it be stated that that permit is now dead. End. No line drawn in the sand that you now erase and you move out. This is the problem that we're having now.
Yes.
And it has to be, so it's not just that it has for 1 year, it has to have a definitive stop.
Yeah.
Yes. And to clarify, that would be the special use permit. Building permits also have their own
I understand.
time period, which
I
would
got it.
extend past
But
that.
this is special use, I'm simply
Yes,
saying.
absolutely.
Because this is where we're at right now.
Yep,
Yeah.
nope.
And right
understood.
now, as we know, there is no resolution to where this thing is going, and it's been almost 3 years. So we definitely have to have where the line is drawn in the sand and it cannot be crossed.
That's part of the reasoning behind our recommendation for this special use permit. And
Agreed.
those going henceforward.
Okay, all right. Very good. Okay, so then on application PZC 2024-06, I will entertain a motion to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff, to receive the testimony presented by the applicants, by members of the public, by the PZC members, and by village staff at tonight's public hearing, and make these standards and testimony a part of the official record for the application and findings of the PZC, and that the following conditions also apply: that all security cameras on site will be maintained to not violate residential adjacent properties' privacy, that the police department panic button connection will be subject to the police department's request. The 6-foot fence variance in the rear would be applicable, and that the special use permit granted under this approval would be valid for 1 year from date of issuance. And to recommend that the village board approve the application for a special use permit to establish a cannabis dispensary operated by Duchess at the property located in the B1 Local and Community Business District.
So moved.
Thank you, Jay.
Second?
Thank you, Scott. Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Marks,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. So do we get all the conditions that we need?
Yes, we did. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
In that case, this application is set to appear before the village board at an upcoming meeting with unanimous recommendation from the commission. So you all did a good job.
Great note-taking.
Huh?
Great note-taking.
He was saying quick.
Stay in touch. Thanks for bringing the samples.
Okay, and on our agenda this evening, we did have 865 Tulsa, but we concluded that last evening because that applicant decided to wait through, so we don't have that this evening. So we can then move to, staff report. Roche, do we have this update staff report from last night?
Yes.
Since last night?
We provided you most of what was going on and the upcoming items for August. One thing we forgot to bring to you yesterday was the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of the commission regarding the comprehensive plan. So if you'd like to make a motion to approve that this evening, we could get that out of the way as well.
Other meeting, the last meeting, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
June 26th.
Last month's second.
Okay,
Last
so
month's-
I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting of
June 26th.
Wait, it's here? I've got it. Wait, one more page. Accept the meetings of June 26, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Marks,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. It was funny you mentioned that because when we started, I thought, I remember we made the motion last night for the one, but we
Not the
didn't do the
second.
other one, did
Yeah, I realized that just after the meeting got done.
we? Okay, do we have any other business to discuss?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay.
Did you get a report from, you mentioned there may be a report back from the other dispensary?
It was the fact that they are, we haven't yet extended or curtailed them at this point. That decision is yet to be made.
Okay.
Okay, with no other business, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jay.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo, Commissioner Marks,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. We are adjourned earlier than last night.
Thank you very much and good night.